Open Paddock RallyCast. This is episode 42 for Tuesday, October 30th, 2018. Apologies for the late post on this one, as we weren't able to get this edited until the weekend. In this show, we had our Lake Superior Performance Rally review with the Youper and Mr. Hooper. Our Youper is returning guest Al Dantes Jr. of Tower City Race Team. We also have, for the first time, Michael Hooper, the two-wheel drive winner of LSPR, and now Rally America two-wheel drive overall champion. We chat about something called the Sisu Challenge, the crazy changing conditions at LSPR, and discuss other bits of rally news. Unfortunately, no Ian Holmes this week, as he's had a bit of a cold, and a bit of warning, there is some static in the first few minutes, but it gets cleared up pretty quickly once Al finds a new headset. This is Open Paddock, the RallyCast. Welcome back to our show, Al Dantes Jr. and our new guest, Michael Hooper. So good to have you guys on the Open Paddock RallyCast. Al, let's start with you. How you doing this evening?
Oh, not too bad. It's been quite the week getting back into the groove after LSPR. You know, it's such a wind-up. It's a grand finale for the year. It takes about a month of planning, and we had a lot of special things going on at our headquarters, so it's been kind of nice to get back to work now.
Well, it's pretty much in your backyard, right?
Yeah, literally, I had videographers and photographers in my basement. I had Robert Lefebvre, he came from Bismarck, he was in my basement. We had my wife's camper in the yard. We had the Rabbit crew was in there. My crew was in there. We had a barbecue. We had the TV6 crew, which was actually live broadcasting to like 400,000 homes across northern Wisconsin and the UP. They were broadcasting from my house at 5:30 in the morning on race day. So that was interesting. But yeah, eventually they let me get in the car and go play in the woods. So it was kind of relaxing, you know, after all the wind up to finally, you know, just me and Brandon go for a little ride.
Now, Mr. Hooper, nice to have you finally on the show. Now, you had a little bit of a trek from where you're at to get all the way up to LSPR, didn't you?
Yeah, we're just over 1,000 miles from Chattanooga.
Wow.
So it's a bit of a haul. We headed out Tuesday evening, and as we typically do, drove all through the night, and then showed up the next day in the afternoon, the night before Recce.
So, how many times have you done LSPR in the past, Mike?
That is my third time up there, and it is probably my favorite event.
What makes it your favorite?
Oh man, it's just so varied. You know, you've got everything from super fast roads that you have to commit on to tight and technical, smooth roads, bumpy roads, rough roads, but nothing's really a car breaker. Even the corners that are tight and technical, you know, usually there's a little bit of a berm, so you can have a little bit of leniency, I guess, if you get carried away, and then it'll knock your car back on the road. So it's just, I don't know, it's my favorite. Not to mention it's beautiful up there.
Well, so from the imagery we saw, it definitely looked beautiful up there. You also had a little bit of pretty good competition with the ARA champs of Seamus Burke and Martin Brady coming and paying a visit in that beast of a car they've got. Feel a little intimidated going into that one?
Honestly, we've been chasing them all year. We set out this with 4 events in mind. We wanted to hit 4 events, get on the podium on 3 of the 4. We were allowing ourselves one mistake somewhere along the way, and just keep building that car and improving on the strength with a goal of winning LSPR. So, you know, I had to tell myself I had a shot, but of course, in the back of my head, I'm thinking there's no way we're gonna be able to chase that thing down. But we came out of the gate as fast as we could, and when the dust fell, we were on pace, so it worked out.
Yeah, certainly on pace, but definitely it was starting out pretty close with the first few stages. As we can hear, Al is moving around and going in and out of places. You can't slow Al down. He's always moving. Yippy dogs included. Al, you still with us?
Yeah. I'm just looking for a new headset.
Ah, okay. All right, Al, you were saying earlier that, this rally is pretty much in your backyard. And, obviously a lot of people there. You're very familiar with it, people coming and seeing you. But you also did something a little special with this home round of yours, something called the Sisu Challenge. For those that haven't read all about it, why don't you give us a little bit of an explanation of, first of all, what Sisu means? I think we mentioned it once on our show several shows back, but might as well get a refresher. And what the whole purpose of this was.
Well, what Sisu is actually a it comes from Finnish culture, from Finland, and most would say it's undefinable. It, at its root, what it is stubbornness. In the face of adversity, a Finlander doesn't give up, just keeps pressing through, win or lose, never quit, and that's one of the reasons why it's very hard to beat a Finn. So, yeah, as far as the Sisu Challenge, it actually started at a Ojibwe rally in Detroit Lakes. For years, myself and Robert Lefevre of Stang Rally have exchanged, what would you say, lodging. When I go to Ojibwe, he houses my team, and when he comes to LSPR, I house his team. So it works out good. But this year he said, well, I don't know if I'll be able to do LSPR. And I said, oh, we're going to do a little prize fund and we'll get you there. And I forgot about it. And a few weeks later, he got a hold of me. He's like, you going to do that? And I'm like, no. And he goes, well, I think we should. And so we pulled the trigger. We put it all together in about a half an hour, and it really took off. So it was really cool.
So give me an idea of what kind of some of the winnings were for this, because it wasn't just for people that finished first. It was all kinds of different stuff, right?
Yeah, the original intention of the Sisu Challenge was to make it dirt cheap. We didn't want it to be, a $100 buy-in or anything like that. So we set it real low, $20, give everybody's got an extra 20, even though we spend all of our money to get to the event and all of our fuels and stuff. So we decided $20 entry, and then we're like, well, it should be regional guys. And we're like, no, we got to let everybody in, You never know what's going to happen in the woods, especially at LSPR. And then we said, if you have any gag gifts or you want to throw a 6-pack of beer in or whatever, that's cool too. And we opened it up to businesses or retired competitors or anybody, really want to contribute, get in it. And we thought of the idea at 11 a.m. I made the logo at 11:30, posted it at noon, and by the time my lunch break was over, I think we were over $1,500 in contributions.
That is awesome.
So I messaged Lefevre and went, yeah, you're coming to LSPR. And he's like, we didn't realize that his wife was still on the group chat. And she's like, do we need to talk about something?
So how many people donated?
Oh, I don't even know. It went all the way from Limitless Studios, threw in a $500 package to retired competitors like Eric Burmeister threw in $125. Matt Johnson from Specialty Field Productions, who does a lot of work with Ken Block, he threw in $100. Even Mr. Hooper, he threw in $125 just to sweeten it a little bit. And we had a couple anonymous ones, which I'm the only person that knows who it was, but they were $100 bills. And
were you surprised by the amount of support?
I knew there would be a couple. I expected the entire prize fund to be about $500. I don't know what the official total was, but we've been advertising it was close to $4,000.
Wow, that's impressive. That's impressive for just people all just kind of chipping in just to do a little bit of extra little winnings for fun. Now, Mr. Hooper, over to you. You're obviously the one that was kind of the big winner, at least in class. An exciting event. Was this a little bit of incentive for you to come, or were you coming anyway?
We were coming anyways, but absolutely, it just changes the whole dynamic. Not just for the chance of getting monetary gain, but just the camaraderie of competing against everybody and knowing that you're all in the same pot. So yeah, it was a nice addition for sure.
It made you hold that right pedal a little longer?
Well, Seamus was doing that, but the Sisu helped for sure.
Al, why don't you tell me about how your at least first day of the event went for you?
Okay, the first day of the event was a little tricky because when we did our reconnaissance, the roads were still frozen, and then halfway through the day it warmed up, and I joked with everybody for 3 weeks leading up to the event because the forecast was 48 degrees, and I said no, it's going to be 75 and sunny, and 75 and sunny, and everybody was calling me delirious. Well, on the day of recce, I think it hit 68 degrees. So all the roads that were frozen turned into mud after we had already checked them out. So we're like, okay, all of our notes are not going to be as great as they were. So we started. First stage was Bob Lake, and there's a notorious corner there, about a mile in. It's just a simple right three, but it's really wide and muddy, and everybody goes off there. And this year was just the same. It ate a couple cars, and we took our time through there, and we were careful of the mud. There was a little bit of water. Everything was good, no issues. The next one was Estes Lake, which is really, really fast, but it has some sharp corners in it. And well, I didn't know about it until Mr. Hooper posted a video, but now there's a famous jump on this stage. But yeah, good stage. Went into service, and then the third stage of the rally started our first night stage, and I've been running the same eBay HID lights for 6 or 7 years, and I realized last year I'm already driving over the limits of the lights, and I was just miserable all of Friday. My lights weren't pointed where I wanted them. I couldn't see, and I was getting pretty angry and miserable. And when we went out for the last loop of stages, I actually stopped on the side of the highway and aimed my rally lights on the highway, and I finally got them dialed in and got them exactly where I liked them. And then 6 miles from the rally finish on Friday night, just randomly lost a tire, and it's like, Sisu, and I wasn't going to pull over with 6 miles left. And when you lose a tire on a rear-wheel drive car, you lose so much power, and you're like, well, are we losing the motor? Are we losing the tire? And after it starts coming apart, you're wondering, well, do I have 2 flats? And so it was a frustrating day for day one.
Was it a full delamination? You could hear chunks, flying off, or? Yeah,
especially with a 2-door car. And the way an RX-7 is, when that tire comes apart, and of course it's always on the co-driver's side, so it's right behind his head, and it's slapping on the window and slapping on the hatch, and he can probably feel it in his seat pretty good. But it's 2 years in a row that's happened to us, and it's the same stage even. It's Far Point, and we didn't have any impacts, and it's a second running of it, so it gets pretty sandy and rutted up, and one of these days I'm going to get a clean run at it.
So you said it was 6 miles from the finish of that stage. Where is the point for you that you would pull over and actually change it? How many more miles would it have to be?
This was probably right there.
Because that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, that's got to be pretty close to the borderline, right?
Yeah. It was for a while. Usually the first 2 or 3 miles, it's still pretty stable, but so you're not going to pull over right away as soon as you feel a flat. You're like, hey, it's not that bad. And then it gets a little loose, and then it starts ripping, and then the tread comes apart. And so it usually takes about 3 miles till a tire totally gets undrivable. And that's when the co-driver kind of gets scared, because they realize you don't have any control of the car, and it's randomly shooting off the road, and you're still doing 70, 75 through the woods because you're not trying to bleed out too much time. But I think all in all, I think the 6 miles on the flat cost us maybe 90 seconds. So 90 seconds, I'm never getting a tire change done in 90 seconds.
No, you're not. No.
Yeah.
You do have a history though of scaring your co-drivers, first without brakes at Ojibwe, and then shredding a tire on this one. Way to go. Good job.
Well, at least at Ojibwe, Zach didn't know that we were out of brakes until I pulled the handbrake at the finish line. So. That's when I knew I had to turn it up a little faster. If the co-driver doesn't realize you don't have brakes, you're gonna have to drive more aggressively when you do have brakes.
So, Mr. Hooper, did you lose any tires on this one on that first day?
No, we got lucky, but oddly enough, it might even be that same run through Farpoint, stage 8. There's a 300 downhill into a square right, and I went way into the ditch on the left to set up for the right, and I thought I picked up a flat. So we spent a little bit of time, and then finally, you start hearing something that doesn't sound quite right, feel quite right, and I was waiting for it to delaminate like Al was talking about. And then after a mile or two, realized it wasn't getting any worse, so we kept driving it. And turned out it was just the underbody dropped down and had folded over on itself. So we picked up something in the ditch, but luckily it wasn't a flat, so we dodged the bullet.
Wow. Yeah. And, at least you didn't have the was it Oit Tanak at Wales Rally GB, where his loosened dug like. What does it look like? A foot into the dirt and ripped off a bunch of other stuff, causing him to DNF. So
I heard 2 feet.
Yeah, it was a ways under there. They had to dig it out. It was pretty crazy for sure. So obviously your Friday went really well. Started pulling a bit of a lead, and Al had mentioned that there was the jump that he didn't really know was a jump there. But I think I saw a picture of your car. Did you make sure you got clearance for the altitude you got there?
Well, not from the navigator side, anyways. We last year we ran that same stage. We ran it at night, and I had flat in the notes over that same crest, and we ended up overshooting that corner and going in the weeds a bit. So this year, we talked about it, and we're like, well, we'll go ahead and brake check at the top and shed a little bit of speed. But it turns out we're going a little bit faster than we were last year, because even with that brake check, we ended up doing the exact same thing. And if you get a chance to catch the video, it's pretty hilarious, Claudia's reaction. I think we were about 108 before the lip, and then you can see I actually stabbed the brakes, so it does get just under 100. But we don't land until halfway down that straightaway before the left. And it's a square left with spectators, of course.
I was going to say, that's that spectator point. Yeah, that's a great combination of shots. I was looking at some video of that. It was just coming off that jump, land it, and then boom, you got to start hooking it into that left, right?
Exactly. And we were sideways pointed right under hard braking the majority of the way down that straight. And we would have had a good video, but the gentleman from Limitless said he actually abandoned his post because he thought we were coming his way. So he left his recorder and headed for the woods.
You scared him a bit. That means he's doing his part of being safe, so it's all good.
Exactly.
We'll give him props for that. That means he's not just looking through his viewfinder about the shot, he's thinking about himself, which is very good. We want that from our media people out there, of course. So how did your Friday end up? I was kind of giving details of how things went into the night. How'd it go for you?
Really well. We planned to push some more at night. We didn't take as much time as we'd hoped, but we ended up 23 seconds up on Seamus. I think he got us stage 2 and maybe another stage in there. He put some time back on us, but going back and forth, I don't think there was ever more than 10 seconds difference on stages. And that's
fun. That was
a 14-mile stage.
How much enjoyment is it to come at the end of those stages, or when you guys get to the next ATC and you're kind of all just kind of stacked up there and you're kind of looking at times and whatnot, to be able to see like, oh man, it's so close each stage.
It's fantastic, and it's just a treat, honestly. I never thought that we'd be up there setting those times or even in the ball field, and going into this event, like I said, we were somewhat confident, but at the same time pretty nervous until we got that first set of stage times to kind of confirm that we were on track. So it's exciting. It's really exciting.
Now, Al, you have not just yourself out there competing. You've got a whole Tower City race team out there. So you had some other guys out there competing. How was their first day out on those roads?
Yeah, this was our debut of our third car, which a pretty cool story, which I'll explain more when we get to the Saturday stages. But my little brother, he got so excited spectating the rally last year that immediately after LSPR, he was one of those guys like, I got to get a car. I got to get a car. So we got him a car. We got him an old Max Attack GTI that had been mothballed, and a really nice car. It's got ITBs on it. It's got DMS suspension, and any picture of it on the internet from the early 2000s, it's skying through the air because it's got this amazing suspension and it's lightweight. Well, they've been rebuilding it all year, and they actually had to rewire half the car. So they finally got it running correctly like a week before the event. My brother had rented it out to a fellow off-road racer, Kyle Cooper, and then my brother's crew chief from Crandon was the co-driver, Chris Woodry. So they were starting, I think, 30 cars behind us. And then my teammate Adam Van Dam and Jacob Carlson in the Rabbit, I helped out with the starting order a little bit and put them right in front of me, which I told him it's kind of like the Greyhound racing. We'll send out the rabbits first and we'll go get them.
That's right. I like it.
So with our Friday night stages, we didn't compare times with anybody else. We were just checking back and forth with each other, and he's been out to Colorado and Missouri a couple times and down to Ohio, and so that was my number one rule going in. I told Brandon too. I said, rule number 1 is finish, rule number 2 is have fun, and rule number 3 is don't lose to any Tower City cars. So we were checking with Adam, and I think we took 14 seconds out of him the first stage, and then another 10 seconds the next stage, and it's like, okay, we're beating a rabbit, but what does that really mean? And I don't remember if it was the first or second service, but Susie Little came up to me and she told me, good job, you guys are really killing it out there. And I'm like, well, she's co-driving for Mike Hurst, which I shouldn't even be in the same ballpark with him. And I was like, okay, I guess I got to go check the results. And we had him by, 15, 20 seconds. It's like, oh man, I guess we're doing all right. So we realized we're never going to chase down Mr. Hooper or Seamus, but we were pretty happy with where we were at Friday, even with, I shouldn't say my reasons, but my excuses. But yeah, Adam did very, very well. He had no issues to report, which is very good for Adam, because usually after a few stages, he's looking to buy a new engine for the next day. But so if the Rabbit's happy, he was happy, and it's taken him all year, and I think he's finally got that dialed in. Like I said, the GTI was actually, I think, 25 minutes behind us. So the time we were getting done with service, there was just enough time for me to run over and stamp a picture and send a quick update and hop back in the car before Brandon hollered at me for being late to fuel or anything like that. So they did really good. Rookies, first event. They didn't have any issues, and they actually had an ECU failure after doing a tire change on stage. They had the car fall off the jack 2 times. They got the tire change done. They got belted back in and took off, and then their computer fried on them a mile later. So that was kind of disappointing for them, but I've been in constant contact with them, and they got the bug.
You set the hook nicely.
Yeah, they're used to driving 500 horse off-road trucks side by side. 20 trucks jumping 150 feet, 100 miles an hour over moguls, and they're like, no, this GTI is where it's at, man.
That is awesome. Now, Mr. Hooper, we haven't really talked too much about your car just yet. I remember when I first saw that car, I'm like, a Lexus?
Yeah, we've had a lot of haters, but usually, one spectator area and they're converted. They become believers.
or just one watch at the jump in New England on Concord Pond. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a wild one. That was a little more than we were expecting there too, I guess.
One of the interesting things about LSPR is you never know what the weather's going to do. Weather forecasts, they're mildly accurate. I don't think people expected the next morning to go to Parc Frosé.
Oh, it was horrible.
So, I mean, I'm just asking, so for both of you guys, you wake up the next morning and you look out the window, what's going through your mind?
Well, that's the funny thing was we had all the cars staying at my house. We didn't break anything the night before. We knew we could just get up in the morning, wash the cars, and we were ready to go to Park Expose. Nobody set their alarm clocks. We woke up 7:30, 8 o'clock. We had to be downtown by 9. And I walked out in my living room, looked out the windows. Beautiful day out there. Not a snowflake on the ground. It was really, really nice. And I'm like, wow, weatherman was wrong today. Went in the bedroom, got changed, and came back outside. And I swear the snowflakes were the size of your hand. And woke the guys up, and we got the car wash going in my driveway. We had the power washer going steady, and it was literally, I think, in a half an hour, 2 inches of snow came down, and it was, okay, boys, this is going to be a whole lot different. And I didn't have any snow tires mounted. A rabbit
wait. You didn't get the memo? Bring all the tires?
Well, I'm a stubborn youper too, and it's like, no, there's no way we're getting 6 inches of snow in an hour, right? But yeah, by the time we got downtown, the roads were 3 inches of slush. The Park Expose is right on the lakefront, which I think last year it was 82 degrees out and beautiful. It was just so majestic down on the lake. And this year, I think there was a 35-mile-an-hour breeze out of the west, and the waves were crashing, and they had put walls up on the pavilion, and there wasn't a single competitor to be found. And I'm like, well, where is that? Where are all these guys? And you could see them all huddled up in a pile trying to warm each other up. And that was the first 5 minutes of Park Expose.
You forgot to mention the snow was coming in horizontal.
So along with that 35-mile-an-hour wind, you had the large snowflakes with the wind. It was pretty much blizzard conditions, in other words.
Yeah, it was literally coming in parallel to the ground, no doubt about it. We woke up and saw it, and it kind of had me smiling a little bit. I was optimistic about it. And then we start driving down, and it starts getting more and more accumulation. And then the trailer's sliding around. We were towing the car down, and my optimism started fading. And then I started
a little bit, huh?
Started wondering how many people had snow tires.
Did you bring some?
Nope, no snow tires. Just Hoosier 205s. And I ran over to Seamus's car as soon as I got there and checked his tires. And luckily he was on Pirellis as well. So I figured, well, at least we're in the same boat. And that relieved the pressure a little bit. But
the Pirellis are typically a harder compound, aren't they?
Yeah, I think he was running KM8s. So that's about the best Pirelli I think you could have for that. But it's still not a snow tire. So I don't think he was far off us in terms of traction.
And that was actually a really cool thing that happened on Friday. Well, Thursday and Friday. I went up and watched practice and was talking to a few people, and Don Jankowski got a hold of me, and Karen was riding with Joseph Burke, and he said, "Do you remember who that guy was online looking for tires?" I said, "Yeah." Well, we had about the United Nations to go down, but it ended up that Seamus and Joseph Burke gave me 4 full sets of tires to run the event on, and it was unbelievable. 16 Pirellis. Come on, when am I ever going to be able to afford something like that? And those guys run them and take them off, and I know I was probably helping them out, but they probably helped me out for 2 years worth of tires right there.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah,
but
it's one of the many things I love about the rally community. It's always giving it back to the other guy,
So that was pretty cool. Everybody's like, "Where'd you get those tires?" And I said, "Oh, the same tires Seamus runs." So when I hear he was on those tires, it's like, yeah, and I was on a set of those too. But we know how those go on the snow now.
Yeah.
So I guess my next question is, you're transiting out to the first stage of the day. It's looking a little slick out there. Then you get to the start. I mean, you get this countdown, and what are you thinking at that point? It's like, how are you going to approach this stage with the conditions so different from what you did in Recce?
So for us, we were super excited about our finish on Friday, but unfortunately that put us 4th on the road Saturday, and there was a lot of snow up there. on the transit, I'd just kind of play with it a little bit and see, okay, what kind of grip do we have? How's the car going to handle? And I'd scoot over just a little bit out of the tracks, and I could literally, 3 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 10 o'clock on the wheel, and that car would just float and plow straight ahead. I don't know about you, Al, but it was pretty terrifying for traction.
Actually, the first stage, it's within a half a mile of the start is actually Ken Block's corner where he destroyed his car. Was it 2015 or 2014? But yeah, you start the stage and you go kind of straight, and then there's a right three. Well, we took off and we hit that right three and we went straight, and we missed the corner by 50 feet. And it's like, okay, Brandon's giving me a pep talk. Okay, bring it in. Calm down, calm down. And then we have maybe 6 or 7 left sixes in a row. So we get up to 70 miles an hour. And like Mr. Hooper was saying, when I try to hit these sixes, the car keeps going straight. And it's like, okay. Well, then after that is the big spectator area. And every one of my friends from town is there. And it's like, okay, let's do this. And I go shooting off into the spectator area, and I hit a log pile, and I smashed the rear end, and I sprayed the entire crowd up on a hill, and then I go shooting off 150 feet off course. And all the while Brandon's like, all right, buddy, this is the first mile and a half of the rally. And he's like, come on, reel it in. This is getting ridiculous. So we finally get out of there, and we're up into the woods, and we're buzzing along, and the roads are looking a little bit clearer. And I hit about 70, 75, and all of a sudden the whole car just lifts right up, and we do a double pirouette down the road. And
oh, wow.
And slush flying everywhere, snow everywhere, and we land in the ditch, and we rock up on our side and sit down, and the car's, dead, and the car wouldn't restart because rotaries really don't like to start when they're hot. So I'm sitting there for 60 seconds, and the car won't start, and it finally fires up, and I look back, and I see Rabbit coming up behind me. So Rabbit blows by, and yeah, that was the first mile and a half of the rally, and Brandon's like, all right, just simmer down. Just simmer down. Like, okay. So the rest of this, that's the thing, is the stage is 9 miles long. So we had 7.5 more miles up the mountain, down the mountain. And at least we had a seeing eye Rabbit to follow, and he was spinning out, and we were laughing. And yeah, that was miserable. And that's how our rally started on Saturday.
I've never driven so slow on stage. I kept, hollering at Claudia, check our mirrors, because I was thinking for sure we were going to get caught. And I guess we all had the same soup. We made it about 4 miles in, and I'd had a couple close calls and kept backing off. And I really, like I said, it just felt so slow. And we came into maybe a left 3 into a right 2-, and went a little inside on the right, and couldn't get the car stopped. It just wouldn't turn in for nothing. Slid across the road, went into a ditch, couldn't get out. Actually had to get out. Claudia put out one triangle. I dug the tires out. Then she actually pushed the car, and we were able to back out. And
she's
I knew
a tough
Seamus
little one, by the way.
Yeah. She said later that she didn't think that it was going to help pushing, but she just figured she'd humor me and give it a shot.
Love it.
But so Seamus passed us, and we knew we only had 23 seconds. So when he went by, that was a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And I pulled over to the other side of the road to put the belts on, because I didn't want to sit right on the outside where I'd slid off with no belts trying to get harnessed up. And then Matt Hookey came by, so that was another minute. So I knew we were 2 minutes down. So I figured, on one hand I was upset, but on the other hand it was like, well, that first 4 miles is about the most stressful driving I've ever done. At least I don't have to worry about it now. I can just.
So you're not cold anymore. You're actually sweating that you were doing in that race suit.
Yeah. And I figured the time was gone, so we'd just limp out. And then, oddly enough, the very next stage, Seamus had an issue and got stuck, and we ended up catching him, so got the time back. So it was pretty wild. I think shit show is the best description you can come up with for those stages. It was just disaster.
Wow, that sounds super challenging. There's not a lot of elevation change really in that area, but is it?
Well, that's the thing, is you get out of that stage. That stage only had 3 inches of snow. we come out of there and then we go 500 feet up in elevation, and then it was 6 or 7 inches of snow.
Okay, so there is some elevation. So what stage is that where you end up climbing up?
That's Herman. That's
Okay.
the infamous Herman.
So famous it's infamous, huh? Obviously, everybody had challenges on that next day. How'd the rest of your Tower City race team end up doing there?
The Rabbit, we followed him for those 3 stages, and he was about the same with us, just horrible. But when he got back to service, he had his Snowdrift tires, which are a special set of These tires are so tiny. They're 13 inches, and I bet you they're only 4 inches wide. And he was the hot ticket then. He was.
Those are like the old like WRC tires that they used to have, right? The super narrow ones that just trench through the snow and get down to where the grip is.
He actually caught us. Is it Menge Creek or Mengi Creek?
Yeah, Mengi Creek.
He caught us by the end of the stage. He was flying. I can attest to it. I think he also set the fastest time on Herman, did he not? On the second pass.
Yep.
And
that second go around, he was gone.
Yeah, took the Sisu challenge for that as well. So he was definitely putting down some times.
The worst thing is I'm looking at doing the first ARA event of the year coming up here December 1st, and I'm like, hey, Adam, give me the specs on those tires, why don't you? But yeah, we'll probably have all 3 cars there too, so that'll be another battle royale.
So, Mr. Hooper, Lexus on the top of the podium for the 2-wheel drives there. That must have felt pretty good.
Very, very good. We've been working a long time to get there, and it was just a very nice end of the season.
So, obviously a very challenging rally. Everybody had some issues, but it definitely showed the Sisu perseverance. So, well done. So, does that cap off your year and just getting everything planned for next season?
Yeah, I think that's it for this year for sure. The car's actually still on the trailer, and we're starting to talk a little bit about next year. It's a little early with everything coming out. I think both ARA and RA have just released schedules, and there's some surprises there, of course. So we're just kind of taking a step back and breathing and looking at resources and starting to bench build a season, I guess. See what we can do.
Well, there's actually one thing that Rally America did announce with that new schedule is there's an event not too far from you, I believe.
Actually, we gained one and we lost one.
Right.
So 100 Acres, the closest event for us, and that went to ARA. And then, are you talking about West Virginia?
Yeah, I figured. I guess that isn't as close, depending on where you are there. So yeah.
I think it's maybe 8 hours. There's nothing close for us,
right? I mean, it's all relative.
8 hours is close. I guess we can leave, in the afternoon and get there before midnight. That's close for us. But I actually ran that event, or I think it's different roads, but when it was based out of Elkins, and then also one year when it was based out of Snowshoe, and those were definitely really nice roads up there. I don't know how close this new event's going to be, but lots of elevation changes. Most of the stages you'd start on one side of a ridge line and climb up to the ridge, maybe race along the ridge for a little bit, and then back down the other side. And coming from Washington, I love the elevation changes and just what it does for the roads. So I got to
watch out for the off-camber ones.
Well, and exposure.
Right.
There's definitely going to be exposure, but
co-driver side, it's always a co-driver.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Looking forward to hearing more about it, but obviously, always good to have more events.
Exactly. That's my thought as well. Even with all the kind of controversy stuff, or whatever, among sanctioning bodies, my thought is the more rallies, the better. So I can't complain overall with what's been happening as far as more events seem to be coming online. Al, you said just kind of briefly that another event coming up on the calendar for you. That's right. It's Namaji's coming up, right?
Yep. Yeah, the only damage that we found so far on the car was a a broken rear diff mount, which makes a lot of noise every time you let slack out in the drive line. We're hoping that'll be an easy fix. One of the punchlines to our Saturday at LSPR was we had Mr. Lefevre there doing the Sisu challenge and the Sisu updates, and he came over for my update, and he looked down and he turned white as a ghost, and he's like, why do you have those tires on? And I'm like, well, I just put them on yesterday. And well, this was Al's first time running Pirelli Super Softs. Mm-hmm. And when we did 80 stage miles on Friday, well, usually my tires last me 3 events. Well, we never even looked at them Saturday before we went out and we started in all that snow. We didn't even look at them, and there was no tread left on the tires.
Right.
So not only did we start Saturday morning with the wrong tires, we started with no tread.
Super soft. They mean super soft. Oh, that's hilarious, man. That's great.
Yep. So lesson learned there.
Yeah. So so you're gonna be using having some snow tires prepped, some nice narrow ones for there at Namaji, but hopefully it won't be super wintry cold.
Yeah, it'll be perfect irony. It'll be 75 and sunny.
Well, if I'm right, I believe they said that entries are already open, where people start entering in for that one. And you said the whole crew is going to be there?
Yep. My brother, like I said, he bought the car last year after LSPR, and then he rented it out for LSPR this year. So he still has not competed in his first rally. So the other guys got the car ready. They took the car back downstate, about 8 hours away across the Mackinac Bridge, and there's a team down there rewiring it for him, putting a new ECU in. He'll get it back. He still hasn't driven it in anger. I believe Rabbit's going to come now that Wyoming was canceled, so he'll be able to come race. And that's actually how Rabbit's Rally America campaign started last year. Was I was beating him by 3 seconds with 8 miles to go, and we shook on it. And I hit a icy spot and slowed down, and he didn't. So that's how he started out number 1 in the Rally America Championship. And then he ended up going to Snowdrift and winning there. So that's what his impetus to run the entire year. So when we get to line them back up at Namaji on December 1, it's going to be out for blood.
I like that. Fighting words. That's what we want to hear.
Friendly rivalry.
Oh, yeah. We love the friendly rivalry, you know. You can talk smack a little. It's all good.
I don't know if you remember that one from our previous interview of how I have a bad habit of turning my crew chiefs into rallyists. Well, my crew chief from last LSPR was the co-driver with Cooper this year. And then now my crew chief from this LSPR is going to be my little brother's co-driver. So I'm looking for a new crew chief. I think this is about the 4th or 5th crew chief I've turned into a racer. So
you're hired. We'll keep you around because it just keeps the system flowing there. Yeah. We're okay with that. It's all good.
Yep. So we keep busy.
Well, I mean, there were definitely some things in the news, and I don't know if you guys want to comment on them or not, but obviously Rally America did announce their new schedule. For the most part, the good thing is not a lot of conflicts with ARA events. It looks like, in general, there's some good-sized gaps that you can compete in both without too much of an issue. So I thought that was a very good thing.
Yeah, we were definitely happy to see that. I think just Colorado and maybe NEFR are conflicting, but other than that, Ohio's not conflicting. Olympus is no longer a national, so it's not conflicting. So yeah, it's much improved over last year.
Tour de Forest. Olympus is still national. It's actually the first event or second event on the season.
Correct.
But it's the Tour de Forest, right? It goes back to a region.
So yeah, I think it's great that they're not overlapping. Makes it a lot easier on co-drivers as well. I don't know how many drivers are doing both series, but I know some of those top co-drivers are definitely trying to get in as many seats as they can. That's their livelihood.
What about you, Al? You'd be able to do more events now without the conflict?
Really doesn't affect me. I bought all 3 licenses this year. It was a hard pill to swallow for LSPR. I hand over $188 to Rally America, and I knew my license would expire on Sunday, so I was like, oh man. But yeah, I had the
Says the
national
guy
license.
that earned $4,000 in Sisu, at least earnings coming in. Not that you won it, but just in general. I mean, come on.
Yeah. Yeah, especially after getting some Pirelli tires, I
Yeah.
can't complain. And like I always preach with the rally karma, you give and you get, and sometimes you give and give and give, and sometimes it comes around, and I'm never complaining. So
It was a little unfortunate. Earlier this week they did say that Wyoming isn't coming back on Rally America, but just not the entries from it. Yeah, hard to lose an event because we definitely want to see more events. But hey, like we said earlier, West Virginia is that new one that's added to the calendar. So a net zero really in that respect. So can't really well, actually, there's a couple other new events. They announced a New Mexico event. And I guess a Nevada event, a desert rally in Nevada. I think competitors that go to these new rounds just have an open mind and understand. Hey, everybody's got to learn, right? Not only the new roads to you, but it's new stuff for all of these volunteers to learn and whatnot. Coming from that background myself, as an organizer, as a volunteer, everybody's got to learn a little bit as they go. So yeah.
I'm just glad people are willing to give up their weekends and put the effort in, because it always amazes me at every event, how many volunteers are out there just working their tails off so we can play in our cars, and it's really cool. I'm grateful for them.
Yeah, definitely. Al, did you do any volunteering back when you were just a youngin'?
Yeah, actually, that's how Brandon and I started out. His father has been a marshal since the 70s when it was a POR. I grew up in West Virginia and Wyoming, and then I moved back to the Upper Peninsula when I was 15, 16. And they're like, hey, come check out this rally. And I thought it was like Race of Champions, where they did that figure 8 style rally cross. And it's like, I don't know how they're going to do that in the woods. But so, yeah, that's how I started out. And Brandon worked his way up. I think before he was 18, he was a stage captain. I was his navigator. So he had an old Chevy pickup truck, and he drove that, and I had to read the tulips. And there was quite a few times we had complaints from some of the radio volunteers that we laid out stages a bit too quickly. But we had a bad habit of we'd lay out the stages, and once we had the stage set, we'd run the stage in reverse course. And it's one of those things where I always ask for forgiveness, not permission. And we'd tell the ham radios at the finish, we'd be like, at 30 seconds after we leave, let them know we're reverse course and we're coming in hot. So that's how we started out. And we volunteered for 17 years. Brandon moved away. He's a fireman and a police guy over in Ironwood, about 2 hours away. And we grew apart, and I started racing and doing dirt track and stuff like that, and started doing rally. And he had to cyber spectate for a few years. And it's actually how I met Mr. Hooper and Claudia, was over at Magnum Opus in Newberry, which is the middle of nowhere, Michigan. And I had won the first day of Magnum Opus in two-wheel drive, and there's these two people with funny accents met me at my motel door, and they're like trying to figure out why this little black Jetta is going so quickly. Like, when you hear Mr. Hooper and Claudia speak before you even know who they are, it's like, all right, what's going on? And so he had his little BMW, and it's one thing Magnum Opus was always known for, was it was always 90 degrees and humid and dusty. And so anytime you had a chance to get out of your car, we were always out sitting on our hoods, jibber jabbering. And we made a lot of friendships over there at that Magnum Opus rally, which no longer exists.
Well, that's another one we need to work on bringing back.
I said there's a fun event, but maybe we'll bring it back when the mosquitoes are out of season.
Yeah, I think that's how I met half of my rally friends. Was I was always the dope dealer out there. I had the bug dope.
There you go. That one thing I wanted to bring up actually about the about LSPR. You guys have something a little bit different at that event. You have something called a passage control, and it sounded like that's something that caught out several novice competitors. I know you guys are just drivers, not co-drivers, meaning you don't always read the entire route book, but can you guys give us an insight about a passage control and how important that is that you actually have to stop there?
I think that's actually blown out a little bit. It's simply they're my friends, but it's simply they're just thinking the next stage is Houghton and they're going to Houghton. They pretty much chopped 7 or 8 miles off their transit by deciding to turn left instead of right. There's nowhere in the route book that even gives you that option. So it's literally not looking in the route book and just doing your own thing. And it's I feel bad for saying it, but yeah, it has nothing to do with the LSPR organizers or the route book. It's just plain operator error on that one.
Yeah, I mean, from the sounds of it, from the more experienced co-drivers that I, heard from, that, not only was in the route book, it was actually on the time card. So it means you have to stop there.
Exactly. It was a time control. And I sympathize with them. I understand, you're just using logic to get back, but unfortunately you got to follow the route books.
I think one of the best responses I saw to that, and gosh, I'm trying to remember who it was that posted it, but the explanation was that, look, there are times, even though it seems like it's off the beaten path and not direct route from you look at the Google Maps on your smartphone these days, there are reasons that you may have to take a specific route because you don't want to piss off some certain locals with your loud cars, even if it's transit. You don't want to, there might be reason. I can totally reason that the WRC forces teams to maybe go through certain villages for camera opportunities where they go past some like old church or something and they want to get pictures of the cars they pass by it, and they'll make the route specifically go that way for that reason. You gotta follow the route book, right?
I actually had to I explained that to the rookie guys in our third Tower City car. I was like, if you have a route book and it tells you to go this way, you have to go this way. While the co-driver, he actually lived in Hancock, maybe 4 or 5 miles from the practice stage. Mm-hmm. But I had ingrained it into him that you have to follow the route book. So rather than just take the 4 or 5 miles to go to the practice stage, he went backwards, had to go back to where the route started, and he followed it note by note. And it took him an extra half an hour because of traffic and a detour. But that's the way it said you had to go to the practice stage, and that's the way he went. And I'm like, oh. The worst thing is you didn't read the first page where it says on Thursday and Friday, or Thursday, you're free to move about within a 60-mile radius. Oh. Yeah, he followed my instructions, so that was good. And that was on Thursday going to practice. So it's just something you have, you're going to be a good co-driver. You're going to take care of your driver. And I've been very lucky. The 4 or 5 co-drivers I've had, they've been very professional. And I don't think in 6 or 7 years, I don't think we've ever had a penalty. So I'm not even going to knock on wood on that because I trust my co-driver. He's knocking on wood listening to me.
What about you, Mr. Hooper? You had any issues with time controls in recent history, or pretty much been flawless?
We've been pretty lucky. I actually had 4 different co-drivers this year in 5 events.
Wow!
And all of them did outstanding. The most recent before LSPR, my crew guy actually jumped up and sat in the seat. And similar to Al's experience, he just went out and bought one of my old BMWs. So now he's got a rally car.
That's great.
Something in the water, I guess. But no, they all do a great job. I'm lucky to have every one of them.
Awesome. Now, Al, I think I saw you post something recent about a regional championship.
I don't know. I don't know what you would be talking about.
Uh-huh.
Maybe they won it.
Maybe.
Oh, okay. Now I see where you're No, I hadn't even paid attention to it. I was so busy.
Oh, no, not at all. No.
I was waiting to see how the national championship shook out, and it's like, well, okay, Adam missed out because Wyoming didn't happen, and I'm like, well, I wonder where we finished in the central region, and the results weren't coming up, and all of a sudden it popped up. I'm like, wow, these aren't updated. And then I started clicking, wow, these are updated. And So I made sure to screenshot it right away and send it to my co-driver Brandon and let him know, congratulations, we just won our first championship, and we won the Central Division Group 5 for 2018. So there, there's not 80 or 90 drivers in there, but what we did, we got first. So I guess we'll put it on our wall and hang it there and be proud of it. And it's something that can't be taken away from us unless we do something really bad.
Well, congratulations, Al, on that. That is really cool. And, you got there through Sisu, man, or Sisu, or however you pronounce it. But well done. And Mr. Hooper, congratulations on a fantastic win in such challenging, changing conditions.
Actually, hold on a second.
Yeah.
Did you see who won the national championship for Rally America?
Did not. Where is that? Who did win that?
I wasn't paying attention to that either, Al.
Oh, okay. So that must be Mr. Hooper.
Yeah, we ended up getting it. We were pretty happy.
Congratulations! Wow. So not only a win at the last event, like I said, one of the toughest events, but you won the two-wheel drive championship for
two-wheel drive overall.
Yeah, great job.
Thank you very much. I have to say, I did sneak in an extra event for a little buffer over Seamus because he kept beating us at the beginning of the year. So I went and did show me while he was out west running air.
Ah, right.
So I did pocket an extra event's worth of points, but it still feels like a win with LSPR. So I'm proud of it. We're proud of it. The team's very, very pleased.
Come on, which one of you guys going to do the full ARA championship next year? Come on. Come on.
I'd love to.
Yeah, it is hard. I mean, it's unfortunate that it's so expensive, but it's kind of just the way it is. That's true with all other motorsports. And but hey, you're able to get pick up the one with Rally America. You just were able to get in a lot of those events that are nearest to you to be able to grab that. So congratulations, awesome job. You guys are just some of the greatest competitors as far as just to help define what the sport is about. You guys are always helping each other out, helping other teams out. You started out very grassroots and built yourself up. It's just everything that I love about rally is what you guys do, and it's just so much fun. And of course, trying to get those crew chiefs involved in rally. That is awesome. Any last words before we let you guys go for the evening?
We had a good one today. We actually have 4 administrators on the Tower City page, and I made sure to make sure I had a lot of Tower City shirts for sale at the Rally Superstore at the event, and I seen a few people buying them here and there, and I got a message this morning from Wisconsin, a little kid out of Pulaski, but his dad had checked up on him on his Xbox or whatever, and he found that he had actually been drawing up Rexine on his Xbox so he could race it in Forza, and I thought that was really cool. And I replied to him, let him know that was awesome. I'm like, when he gets it done, send it over. And he said, well, we got one other thing. He's like, well, I bought him a Tower City shirt and he hasn't taken it off since the event. So then my brother, who was one of the other administrators, he started texting him, and we might actually have Eric Hill racing out of Green Bay. We might have him swing over there with his rally car and bring this kid to school one day. And then the rest of the team got together and they put together a sticker package. They're going to send it over to him. I think it's leaving tomorrow afternoon. So that was one cool thing that came out of LSPR that we wanted to share. So.
That is cool. Got to get that younger generation involved, get them hooked. They are. It's so fun to see them at events, isn't it? When they first hear those cars fire up and their eyes bulge. It's like. Or you let them sit in the car and they're just so fascinated. I just love it.
Yeah. Those memories will stick with them too. I remember getting that excited when I was a kid, and it's just neat to see and neat to have the chance to give that back to somebody. I'm a bit of a show off, but I do it for the kids. I remember how exciting it was. It's pretty awesome.
Do you give a little bit more in front of the spectator areas?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Brandon doesn't have the word in his vocabulary. He takes it out of all the books. He's like, at Ojibwe one year, he goes, you've been really stinking at these spectator areas today. I said, yeah, well, if you'd tell me which ones were the spectator areas, he's just not a chance.
That's awesome.
I'm
That's
always
awesome.
getting in trouble for waving.
Yeah.
Smacking with the book. I'm waving at everybody.
I love it. I love it. Well, I do want to ask, did either of you guys watch the WRC event over the last weekend? It was pretty memorable stuff. Talk about a tight championship.
I caught it all the way except for the last 3 stages. So as far as
most important 3, of course.
Yari's winning, right? Yari get it?
I hope you hid yourself from social media because it kind of blew up.
Yeah, I did not. I'm excited to see how it turned out, but what a result for Loeb. That's pretty special.
That is. Apologies, my cat Lulu is deciding to come and make some noise in here. Hold on just a second. Sorry about the obnoxious furball. Cannot hide from the animals sometimes. Anyways, but yeah, is that amazing? Just he's the master, El Maestro, right? Freaking Loeb.
So did Yari go off, or did he just lose some time, or how did he? I know it was pretty tight going into the 3rd day, but how did it go down there at the end?
Oh, he wouldn't even talk on the camera. He ended up basically just one corner a little bit too fast, goes wide, and basically just brushes the Armco with the left rear, and the debeads the tire.
Oh man.
Yeah, I just.
Did you see on the earlier stage the post stage interview? I don't know if he picked up a flat or he started out the event. Yeah. Did you see
where he was cussing like you've never heard Yari ever cuss before?
Did you happen to notice his navigator cowering in the other side of the car?
Yeah.
with his eyes shut?
Yeah. I love Yari Matilatvala for his openness, right? I mean, he just wears his heart on his sleeve. He's so passionate about rally racing. We love people like that in the sport, and yeah, he was just so dejected. He said pretty much, it's like, I would be effing winning this rally if it wasn't for that puncture. And then what was so awesome is that next day in the rain, he had built himself all the way back up to be back in the lead. Like you were saying, when it came to that next day, he should have been winning that rally. But he slapped that Armco and got yet another puncture from it. It was Yari's rally to win. Well, other than Oik Tanak, who also had a puncture and kind of lost it all on the previous day. So, not a good day for the Toyotas when it came to dealing with the conditions there. They both made mistakes and ended up having to deal with that. A little bit frustrating. Tanak's the guy to beat next year for sure. But now we're down to, 7 points between Ogier and Neuville, with Ogier in the lead now. So, one final event. I mean, this could go down to the power stage to decide it, guys.
It's going to be good for sure.
I know I was, and I don't always do this because, I do have to work and stuff, but I was literally up at 3:30 in the morning to catch that final power stage of this event, and watching it until about 4:45 or 5 or whenever it ended, just because I had to see what happened. It was so close between the two Sebastians. They were separated by 3.6 seconds or something like that, 3.9 seconds going into that final stage.
Wow.
It was that close. The tough thing is that on tarmac, it's harder to lose a lot or gain a lot unless somebody makes a mistake. And but Loeb did a master stroke. What I thought was so cool is the old guy is he's so freaking clever. I wanted to hate Loeb, I really did, because he just kept freaking winning. But he is just amazing. Everybody's like trying to pick what tires they're going to use. It's a little bit cooler that morning and whatnot, but there isn't the rain that they had the day before. It's dry. And he chose hard compound, but not right away. He kept the softs on that car until there was 30 seconds left for him to leave service. Then he says, guys, switch to hards. That quick. And that stage, that first loop in the morning, is where he pulled out the lead.
Racing all the way to the pits. That's pretty wild.
Yeah. And then, of course, everybody had the same compound in the afternoon. So that's where it... But at the same time, I guess it showed that the Citroen can definitely still perform well once, you get it dialed in right. Loeb's going to dial it in right. Yet at the same time, Ogier in the Ford was definitely still able to be right up there with them. I think the car to beat from a performance standpoint, though, flat out, is the Toyota. They've got the speed and the power, I think, that the other teams don't quite have yet. I think there's just a little bit more something in their power plant that the other teams don't have. I think, it's a little more parity between Hyundai, Ford, and the Citroens out there. So
how about Meek next year? That's what I'm excited about. I got that news. I about jumped out of my seat. It's between him and Oit and Yari. That's going to be quite the dream team. I don't know who's collecting points back there. I think they'll all be gunning for it. But if he can keep them under control, they should be quite the force.
I agree. The thing is, who's the support driver in that team?
Right. They're going to rock, paper, scissors for it, I guess.
Right. I think basically they're just going to all go for it until about round 5. Then we might see team orders. But before that, I don't know. It's going to be just all out, go for the win. Yeah, it'll be interesting. I also saw a recent announcement that Citroen has confirmed that they will be around through 2021, I believe it was. Through 2020. So 2 more years. That means that's how long at least Ogier's contract is. So, because Ogier just said that he'd have at least, 1 more contract before he retires. Well, why would Citroen stick around, say they're going to stick around for, assuredly 2 more years without it coinciding with Ogier, right?
I wonder if Loeb's going to do any more driving next year, or if he's just coming back to prove his chops and stepping back aside.
Al, any comment on you've been following the WRC stuff?
Not too heavy, but it's always amazing watching the new guys come in, and then you got a good drama and a good show, and then the old wizard just comes back and spanks them all back into place, and he goes and has a cigarette and a drink, and all right, let me know when you're ready to get spanked again, boys.
It definitely felt that way. And not only that, after he won the event, he can still do that freaking gymnast backflip.
Yeah, I like the co-driver with the somersault.
Yeah. Daniel Lena's definitely a character. Definitely a character. Oh, man. I'm a little worried about what's going to happen to M Sport. I think we're going to end up seeing probably Breen will go over there. You'll probably still have Elvin Evans. Elvin finally showed his capability. He was on the podium. I know he's got the speed, just his consistency this year was just horrible. Yeah, and then of course we know Teemu Sunonen's going to still be there, so I'm waiting to see I'm waiting for the fire to light up under Teemu a little bit. He seems a little bit more reserved at the second half of the season. He showed some promise earlier on and just kind of backed off. So, yeah, still kind of waiting to see what's going to happen there. As far as Loeb for 2019, here's the thing. Peugeot has pulled out of World RX, right? So they're not doing Rallycross anymore. That's what Loeb was doing with them. So that means maybe would we have both Sebastians in with Citroen, or would that be too contentious?
Well, I think the idea with Toyota of letting them run the first 5 wide open and decide after that could work there too.
It definitely could.
Figure
I
out
don't
that
know.
order.
I know they're going to end up getting, of course, Estepeka Lappi is going to go over there, and he'll be doing the full season. So it'll be the confirmed are Lappi and Ogier, but Loeb, I don't know if they can afford 3 cars. I think they're going to full time. I think they're going to probably do Loeb select events again. That would be my guess. And whatever events that Loeb's not doing, there probably you'll see Khaled Al-Qasimi running. That's my thought, but we'll see what happens with that for sure. Hayden Padden, though, where's he gonna end up?
Wasn't he was rumored to go to something other than Hyundai about a week ago, wasn't he?
Yeah, the rumor was that he'd go to M Sport, yet he'd still have an agreement with Hyundai that he could still run the Hyundai like AP4 back home, and doing some of the Asia Pacific stuff or the New Zealand Rally Championship stuff, because he is pretty ingrained with the Hyundai brand, back home. Maybe some separation between the WRC stuff he does, separate from the national rally stuff that he does. They might let him do that. It'd be kind of interesting, but I guess considering that M Sport isn't so much Ford M Sport like it used to be, it is M Sport with some backing from Ford's performance, right? So it's not like it's got big Ford branding on everything. It's big M Sport branding on everything. That may leave the door open that he could run with both. I can understand that being important to him because he definitely needs to run some stuff back home. I think that's important for him to continue keeping that rally community growing back in New Zealand. He's done a lot to help grow the sport there. Not that it wasn't, rallying wasn't already strong, but I think he's brought it to another level, being a WRC competitor that's, from that home country. So I'd like to see Hayden do a whole full season. But if he comes to M Sport is not going to run 4 cars probably, though. So team was definitely confirmed. I can see Breen and Elvin Evans being there. Padden, which one would you take? Would you take Elvin over Padden? Would you take Padden over Elvin?
Breen.
Would you Breen?
He's had a bad run of luck, but I think he's got the speed, and he's still developing and getting faster and faster.
Talking about Breen?
Yeah.
I would have to agree with you. The consistency that Breen's had has been phenomenal. This is a guy that knows how to consistently finish. If you're wanting to get manufacturer points, he's the guy that you want in that seat. Almost like a Danny Sordo. On his day, he'll win. But otherwise, he's still going to get you points. And I think that he's a great support driver. I don't think he's a consistent winner like a championship guy just yet, but maybe builds up to it, right?
Yep.
I guess that's it kind of for WRC stuff. I don't think I've read any other crazy news lately. I believe also last weekend, I didn't see a lot of updates from it, but NASCAR Rally Sports ESPR was this last weekend. It looked like it was a sloppy, wet, muddy mess, but...
Yeah, it looked bad. I didn't see how many cars started, but only 9 finished, so...
Oh, wow. I think Patty Brennan came out on top, didn't he?
That's exactly what I was going to say. Patty Brennan with a good friend of the show, Matt James' co-driver. So
third win in a row, I think I saw somewhere.
Yeah.
So congratulations to them. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's got to feel great.
Well, maybe we need to get Patty to do a full championship season too. There we go.
Yeah, there's some interesting things coming out of that RKT Motors garage. It's interesting to see, and they haven't said it, but they're hinting, and I think the old Angry Evo has got quite the upgrade coming out of there for next year.
That sounds pretty cool. Speaking of Evos, at LSPR, of course, we had Joseph Burke and Karen Jakowski come out with a win there, and that Evo's a beast as well.
Yeah, I was glad to see it finally get the good finish that it deserves. They've been developing that suspension for a while, and they had a couple catastrophic failures, and to win LSPR, that's a good check on the resume. I talked to Joseph at the finish, and he said, he said, you let that Mr. Hooper know that he's got my money because I did all day with front wheel drive only. So he wants your Sisu money.
Maybe he can borrow the Escort next year.
Yeah, I think he'll be pretty happy to be to driving the Evo if it behaves and he can keep it on the road. I think he'll have some good battles next year.
Well, hoping to see more of that. And of course, the Brown brothers, they ended up second at LSPR, and they won the national championship with that. Impressive results from an open light. You don't necessarily need a turbo to be fast out there.
They're very quick too. It's not just the snow that caught other people out. I mean, they were on pace all of day one. They've been consistently setting fastest times, top 3 times, all year long. It's pretty impressive how quickly they're going with that car.
A lot of bravery, definitely, and skill, of course, to go along with that. Third place, and I'm probably going to butcher their names, but it's Matt and Adeline Huki. Is that how you say it?
Yep, and they're actually local. They're from Houghton, Hancock, the home of LSPR. So he's been racing for 20 years. He used to have his wife as his co-driver, and now he actually didn't enter LSPR until 7 days before. His daughter's going to college about 8 or 9 hours away, and she said, "Dad, I'm coming home. I'm co-driving, and sign us up." And he said, "Well, the boss says we're doing it. We're doing it." So he literally he knew he had the car. It was prepped. It was clean. He said the only thing he didn't like about racing it was now he had to wash it again. And I'm pretty sure he didn't put any dents in it, and it's ready to go again. So that was really, really cool. Father, daughter, and to put it on the national podium, I know he's been waiting years to do that. So
I think that's the only event he runs all year long too. He comes out, gets it out of the garage, sets down super fast times, and then parks it till next year. He's out practicing. Well, maybe he is. I don't know how close he lives, but he's really quick.
So he's a Uper Loeb.
Pretty much. Well, the cool thing is he had a really bad string of luck for like 10 years, and he was flinging cars off cliffs, and he'd build another car, and then this car he actually I think it was built by Vermont Sports Car years ago. And so he finally got one that he likes, and luckily he hasn't wrecked it. Well, he rolled it 4 years ago with his wife on Farpoint. But yeah, since he's had his daughter co-driving with him, he's behaving a lot better, and he's putting it on the podium. So you can't complain there.
Well done by Matt and Adeline, his father-daughter team. That's really freaking cool. And congratulations again to you guys. Championship winners, regional and national. Thanks again for coming on the show and telling us the stories, and I really look forward to seeing you guys out on the stages next season.
No doubt.
Thanks for having us, Mike.
All right. You guys take care, and that's it for this Open Paddock RallyCast. Remember, you can follow us on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, all that social media stuff, and we're starting to post these now on our YouTube channel if you want to see them there. And of course, you can get them on iTunes. Google now, I guess, has their own podcast app. You can just search for the Open Paddock Podcast there. It'll automatically grab from our RSS feed or whatever podcast app you like to listen to us. So if you're listening to this, you probably already have found it, but they're on our website as well as, of course, you can download them through those other sources. And we're looking at maybe making some changes. I'm thinking about maybe going to Podbean or one of those other more larger platforms to try and maybe expand our exposure. But anyways, thanks everybody for listening. I'm your host, Mike Shaw, and for Mr. Michael Hooper and our Mr. Uper, Al Dantes Jr., thanks guys for being on the show.
Bye.
Cheers.